Hello there, Big Benedict here. We're playing God of War Chains of Olympus on God difficulty, and this is my no upgrade run plus featuring no damage. We're currently on installment the 5th, and after we have broken out of our bondage, we're going to come up here, get ourselves a checkpoint. Actually, I'm sorry, the checkpoint is non-existent. They do throw you back near that part, but they don't force you to break out of the manacles every time, which is nice. I have allowed myself to get killed several times, and I also, if that didn't work, and I don't think it does, I went around and just finished off all of the people that were hanging there, and I got my health all the way up, because if I don't have my health all the way up, I can't rightly see if I'm getting damaged sometimes. So it's not even relevant to talk about it really, but I just wanted to let you know, if you are playing, you don't have full health here unless you go around and get your bodies killed and get your health filled up. But this part is I should talk about this because it's very difficult to get up here without incident. The incident, of course, being getting hit. So what I would recommend is grabbing the enemies and just making your way to those archers, and then once you get a chance, jump up to where they're at. Don't jump when they're about to fire, because you'll probably get hit, but once they've fired, jump up there and then just kill the two that are there, and then just stay up here, kill the other two that spawn in their place. And then if you want to, I think you can do you can plume whore up here if you want to. In a previous video, I mentioned spirit whoring. The spirit of Hercules and the super plume are the same thing pretty much. So if I say spirit whore, I do apologize for the not specifying what that was, just in case, because a lot of people will just throw a bunch of jargon at you sometimes and kind of expect that you know what it means. Jargon and abbreviations and acronyms and things like that. If you're in that field, I would understand that you would know whether that is, but for people just watching a video, they're not going to know all of the jargon. So I don't expect folks to know what that is if they're not even a part of anything that pertains to this game, just watching a video. But it's really nice how Kratos turns his head and his neck to see enemies that you can't rightly see. So even though you can't have full access to a camera in this game, it does definitely show where the enemies are by his head and neck movement. So it's really good. Okay, I did go back and save my progress after this. Pretty sure you get a checkpoint over here. Now these harpies are just a pain. They're a nuisance. I really don't like them. Every attack that they do will break your guard, and when there's a bunch of them over here, I mean, it can get really bad. So the trick about them, for some reason, is that if you're just standing around and you just press circle without hitting before that, you can't grab them. You have to hit them first with an attack, and then you have access to grabbing them for some reason. That's the only way it works. So the easiest way to deal with them is to press square and then press the circle button to draw them over to you with some sort of magic pull that he has. And that is the way to do them. So I did a couple of different takedowns right there, just so you can see what they all were. And those big chains give you 10 red orbs. I looked at it, not very much. I did go back and save over here, but you do get checkpoints periodically over here. This fight can be skipped if you want to just go over to the save point. When you think about it, a lot of this game is just going up to an enemy and just grab killing him. And you might think that That is probably the easiest thing in the world, and seriously, it is. I mean, this game is hard at certain points, but when you think about it, it's very, very simple. I mean, there are shield enemies that we'll get to once we get the gauntlet, but these enemies over here, it's just grab whoring. I mean, you want to talk about grab whoring? That's definitely what it is. And you always have the right of way too, but you can get hit. They do get hits in on you. They're very fast. But that's not the... look how he turns his whole body. I mean, he turns his whole body and it tells you where they are. That's pretty damn good. So what I immediately do when I get over to this part is I turn up to where that chain area is right up there, and I kill all the spawners, and then I take care of the charging hoplites, of which I think there's 2 or 3. Now over here, if you want to, after you take down the wall hoplites, as I think they're called, you can go back down and save it. That's definitely what I would do, but it's for the sake of the walkthrough, I just don't like to have little parts that are edited all the time, so I try to leave the editing to a bare minimum. And these enemies, they will not get off the wall. So if you slide down the wall and try to make them get off and fight them normally, they won't do that. And when they jump on you and you do that L1 plus R1, you have to really do it quickly and fervently, because you can and probably will fail if you just do it in a real casual way. Now when you get up here, there's going to be more of these harpies. They would be really difficult if they weren't in these groups. I mean, I'm sorry, they are difficult because of the fact that they are in those groups, but even so, they can be kind of difficult because what they do is they fly off screen, and then you have to time it correctly to get a parry. Only a parry will work to deal with them and knock them back. A block will not work because they will just go through your block and hit you, but you don't get damaged. You just get knocked down, and what happens generally is that several of them will hit you, and it's just going to end in your death. So, I mean, in your getting hit. And now this area over here, not really made use of too well, because it's an area that is too big for what it has over here, which is not what this game normally does. It normally has an area that is too small for the enemies that they put there, but for some reason we have a small irony in the form of this fight over here. This Medusa should be no different from the other ones. That is, its health pool. And if you're wondering what is going on with the roll, why they didn't get the roll correctly, or if it's some sort of price you had to pay for translating whatever the PSP reality is to the PlayStation 3, they definitely did not get it right. They messed up, or it just didn't translate very well. I'm sure they could have got it one-to-one if they had really done it properly. Maybe they just couldn't because of the PSP. Be careful of this enemy. Enemies don't mind hitting if they're partially off screen or anything like that. Oh, we've got a great fight next. I love this fight that's coming up over here, but son of a bitch, these goddamn quick time events, and I'm sorry about swearing, I'm very sorry, but I just did this part, and I did a part, and I thought it was just magnificent. And I'm sorry that I had to, you know, boast myself there, but I'm serious. I did a fantastic job. It was like the best thing I could have possibly done. And then I tried to do the quick time event on the second enemy, and it just did not give me enough time as it normally does. And I know enough time is subjective and some people might have no problem with it, but I'm used to a certain time and then they change it on me over here, and they will change it for you too. They don't give you the same time allowance that they normally do on the Minotaurs over here. So this is kind of hard because there's a Minotaur that spawns. You want to super plume him and get some good damage on him first. And then there's going to be 8 spawning archers over here. And they're going to randomly spawn. And they spawn on the left side and the right side. If you're on one side and they're spawning, on the other side you can't see them. It's possible that you can hear them, but over the main music it might be difficult. So if you turn that down, you probably could just hear that that spawning noise. But it is good when the majority of them spawn on one side. But if they don't, you're going to have to go from one side to the other, and then once you've done 8, you can move down to any area that you like and do the same method that we did before on this enemy, which is to roll out of his way and do attacks, which I believe I'm doing. I'm rolling and then I'm doing heavy and then several light attacks. Yeah, I'm not doing light heavy for some reason. I think just heavy works a little bit better first, starting it off with heavy and then going in for it. Now, how do you fight this enemy otherwise if you don't do this? Well, he will do a charge attack that I don't think you've seen yet. Actually, you have. He just did it, right? Yeah, he does that. But if you just stay in one spot, you can bait him into doing this biting attack from which you can dodge and just do combo attacks on him. And then when he's all finished, he will do that, and then you can do whatever you like. But I wouldn't recommend that you don't on this enemy in particular. Just for some reason, I don't know what it is, but they just don't give you enough time to do that. So I don't partake in the quick time events. Now, the quick time events on the that charge there. He does a snorting sound first before he charges, so if you're off screen you can listen for that and that will work for you. But I kind of like doing this. But what I was saying is the quick time events on the first Minotaur, they're 50-50. Sometimes it works properly, sometimes they just don't give you enough time. But on this one I found that it was 100% of the time. It just fucks me. It just does. And I'm not very good at the quick time events anyway. I get pressured and I'm like a deer in the headlights, and I fail. But on this part over here, and I've gotten better over the years of doing the quick time events. I was first not really very good at them for some reason. I don't know. I think I was kind of threatened by them, and I've got over that over the years, and I've gotten better. But you're not going to see me do the quick time events on these enemies, like I said, because on this one, 100% of the time, you get like just no time to do it, and it just ruins everything because he hits you and then it's all over. And speaking of all over, that fight is over. Now we're going to come up here. There's one enemy to the right over here, and he's a hoplite. Kind of a dark one. I'm not sure why he's like that. Now we're going to go through this area up here. If you're wondering, up the stairs over there, it's just a barred gate, so you can't go up there. But we will be able to get a key, which is going to open that door, and we'll go down the stairs. There aren't many puzzles in this game, which is a good thing, because this game is just, if you like it, what it is mostly just all small little skirmishes. No endurance fights, definitely no endurance fights, but just all small little battles with 4 bosses. Earlier I said 3 bosses, but I did forget about one of the bosses. I think it was the basilisk or something. It's easy to forget about something when you're talking about, a bunch of things on a camera. But see this, like, this is all this game is sometimes, and I think it makes sense because if you're playing on a PSP, you're just playing on a bus or on a park bench somewhere where somebody can come up behind you and hit you and steal your stuff. That's why I never read in public, and I never definitely don't play games in public. I don't ever want to have my guard down, you know, when I'm around people because I just don't trust anything. Especially if I'm reading a book, I can't concentrate. People will come up to you and ask what you're reading. I hate that. In public too, you're so distracted, your guard's down so much that people could come up to you. Okay, we're about to get the Gauntlet of Zeus coming up over here, and you don't ever have to use it on this run. Even against the shield enemies, we don't need to do it. Coming up over here, but first there's going to be 2 Death Knights. The Death Knights have twice as much enemies as their brethren. I could never remember their names. Never. The other ones with the fire, the Temple Guardians. Those goddamn dog-shitting bastards. You know what I was looking at? I just did a random search when I was not sober, and I looked at something like, can you sell dog shit on eBay? And I think you can. I think you, like in the past, people have been allowed to sell dog shit on eBay. Selling dog shit? I mean, why would you need dog shit? I mean, it's so easy to get. Why would you need to buy it too? If someone's going to send shit in a box? And then I looked on another Google search, is it okay to eat dog shit? And I saw that it was okay. In fact, that it's better than okay. And people were practically saying you should eat it. It's good for you. Now, what am I going to say to that? I don't think it's good for you, and I wouldn't eat shit anyway, but I'm serious. People were saying that it has health benefits and stuff. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to eat shit, man. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Eating shit, yeah, I definitely don't want to do that, so I do apologize about that tangent. Who would even think to do that? Well, honestly, I was... I think I had bought something on eBay and then I got it and then it was like a total piece of shit compared to the picture. I think I was trying to buy it. Yeah, I was buying an Xbox controller and the picture looked pretty nice, but when I got it, there was like all this dirt on it. And it was like, can't you just fucking wipe the controller off, you piece of shit who sold it to me? Jesus, I mean, that's what I really can't stand. You can't even wipe it. You have to let me wipe it off when I get it. You know, I have to wipe your shit off, bitch. Unbelievable. So that's why I was kind of thinking about, well, can you just buy shit online? Because that's what I kind of received. I received, you know, dog shit in the fucking form of a controller that had dirt on it. You know, you think I'm dirt? You treating me like dirt? But okay, now we are first introduced to these enemies over here. These are shielded hoplites, and the game promotes that you break their shields with the gauntlet because it does have you get the gauntlet over here. We do have the Gauntlet of Zeus. I always call it the Power Glove, and I do apologize. It's nothing like a Power Glove, but it kind of looks like it, and I'm not sure to what extent I'll be using it on this walkthrough. But you don't have to use it to break their shields. You can use the shield combo. Remember from God of War 1 they had shield enemies? A little bit more interesting than these enemies. This game, when I say it has a lot of interesting enemies, earlier in the walkthrough, I know that I said that, and I do believe that it has some interesting enemies, but it has a kind of limited bestiary. There's not that many enemies in this game, and in fact, the extent of these enemies sometimes is a series of archers that you go up to these archers and they're aggroed and they're ready to hit you. You go up to one, you can roll up to them quickly without them hitting you, and you just grab them, and then all of the other ones nearby just fall asleep or just de-aggro, and it's just this weird thing of it's just so easy, this game is sometimes. I mean, it has some hard moments, and I honestly can't say anymore which game is harder on conditions such as this where you can't take damage. I just have not played Ghost of Sparta recently, so I can't give an opinion right now based on not having played that game. so long ago, and having played this game so much in recent times. Okay, so now when you come down here, there's going to be 3 harpies that aggro as you approach that cliff wall. You can fight them, or you don't have to if you want to. You can actually choose what you want to do over here, so you realize that you do have a choice about what you want to do. A choice in a God of War game makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And I do say that with some humor, but you can go up here and you can fight the harpies. You can not fight the harpies. You can go on the chain over there, go to the save point if you like. I just like to go left to right usually because I'm that kind of person. I come up here and I do as much possible damage as I can to this Gorgon because it's free damage. And this is a difficult room to no damage, and it's one of the reasons that this video is quite long. Because this enemy is just, it's not very fun to fight with other enemies, or even one more Gorgon, just because they don't like to receive any of the nonsense that they put forward. I like a Gorgon when you can turn it to stone and break it, which is usually fun until you have to realize that you have to hit it like 30 fucking times for it to break, and then it still doesn't break when you're doing a no upgrade run. So you have to use you have to use the power glove sometimes, and I don't want to do that, even though what am I thinking? You don't freeze them in this game. They freeze you. So the main thing to know about this room over here, if you're struggling to do it, is that the more that you break the shield enemies. So there's 2 ways to do this fight over here. You can deal with the Gorgons first, which I'm doing, or you can deal with the well, I guess there's 3 ways. You can deal with the shield enemies, or you can just kind of deal with the whole room as it just winds up for you as you break shields, as you get frozen. It's up to you. So the best way to deal with it on a run such as this, or even if you're just doing it, is to actually, I mean, if you're just doing it, you can use magic and things like that, so that doesn't really matter too much. But if you're doing a condition run, you want to make sure that you don't break the shields of these enemies. If you don't want an enemy rushing at you from off screen where you can't even tell that he is charging at you. So that's a definite thing that you don't want to have happen. So we have to do the plume and the super plume at very limited times if we can ever do it, which is difficult because these Gorgons, they seem to have a lot of life, and that's why it's really important to come in here and just get as much free damage as you can in that first Gorgon. I mean, super plume it, launch it, hit it in the air, throw it, hit it as it's coming down, see if you could bounce it as it's coming down, and then throw it again. And then that, when you think about it, that should deal it almost all of its life, but it's probably still got a little ways to go. But at least you've put a dent in the room, which is a good thing. So what you want to do is you want to avoid breaking the shields of the shield enemies, and then just deal with the Gorgons, and then you can deal with the shield enemies actually just one at a time. And it's difficult because enemies are going to be trying to just move a little bit in this room while you're... Well, see what I'm doing? All I'm doing is I'm just rolling around the borders of the room and just trying to do some really quick damage on the Gorgons. I almost think that it's good to do the quick time event where you're tapping the shoulder buttons, because then if you time it right, as you're coming out of it, they'll actually do an attack, which is not this, because as you can see, they're just spamming this move constantly, and I'm constantly trying to move. The shield enemies really are not a big deal. They move slowly when they have their shields. When you break their shields with the combo, they get stunned for a very long time. So even if you're holding the triangle button and get the launch to fail like it always does, because it's a complete failure. It's funny because the launch was a failure on the other games. It never works. And on this game too, they continued that trend of it failing. It doesn't work. It's very strange. Very strange. And it's probably just, that's how the game works. You can't always have the launch work. It works at a specific time. I find it very frustrating when something doesn't work like that. So with one of the Gorgons out of the room, we have 50% less people spamming that attack at us, but it's still annoying, especially when you have to roll around this room and continue to hit it constantly with light attacks. And we would have enough time. Do you see how much time we had up there to do a combo? We could definitely do a super plume from up there and hit them with that, and maybe see if we can connect with them and launch. But it's going to break the shield of these enemies, and we don't want that. It's too difficult to deal with them. It's too risky to deal with them when you've got something that's spamming an attack like that. Now I know they're a simple enemy. You would just break their shield and then you spam grab. Well, I'm telling you that you can get hit even doing that sometimes, and you just don't want something else in the environment putting pressure on you and potentially hitting you. It's much simpler if you eliminate this, even though it's a little time consuming. Because once we get rid of the Gorgons, we can put everybody on view of the camera. We can deal with these enemies one at a time in a safe and good way that I'm telling you, you're not going to get hit probably if you do it the way I'm telling you. Because especially once you break their shields, they have a long period of it. They get blinded or something. They get staggered or stunned or blinded. I'm not sure what it is, but it amounts to you having a lot of extra time to potentially do anything you need to bounce. I would just recommend bouncing them with light heavy. Just bounce them and then grab whore, which is probably the best way to do it, in my opinion, because it always works. You can do a lot of stuff with something that works, and I just always get frustrated when I'm trying to do a launch and it doesn't work. Now, how many of the shield enemies are there? Well, there's 2 now that spawn with the beginning of the fight, so I think there might be 1 or 2. Oh, finally we got the chance to launch this enemy. But notice the shield enemies don't really pose much of a threat. They walk around. Just keep an eye on them. But the most important thing that you want to do over here is deal damage to the Gorgon, and realize that she can hit you even when she's off screen. So at those moments when you're in like the top right of the screen and you can't really see what's going on, don't stay up there too long. You want to stay down in safer areas where you can see everything. I also wanted to apologize earlier in the walkthrough. The first time we fought that Minotaur, I thought that it was going to be an armored Minotaur encounter, but I should have known definitely that the first encounter with him is not the armored version. Of course, I was thinking of this armored Cyclops fight over here or something. I don't know. But there are armored versions of those heavies, and they are going to be rearing their heads in the Temple of Persephone, and they have more HP according to the information that I've seen online. So speaking of the armored enemies, the armored Cyclops is the one that's coming up next, and he's got 3-piece armor, meaning that square triangle times 3 is going to do the job for that 3 times over. This fight is just terrible, actually, this one over here. But it's kind of strange because sometimes they give you spacious environments to deal with enemies that you really could use some room with them. And then in the Temple of Persephone, it's designed in such a way that they put these huge enemies in little tiny rooms, and on the Cyclops fight, you have to avoid their attacks. Oh, okay. We finally took out the second Gorgon over here. And do you see all of the time you get when you destroy their shields? It's very good. If you happen to destroy 2 shields at once, don't let it get the better of you. Just stay focused. Go up to these guys and spam the circle button. I can understand it now, actually. I mean, if you're on a bus playing this game, or in a library, and you're just playing this game, on a PSP, you're just, you're not even on a TV, or you're on something a little tiny in your lap. So I understand the simplicity of just going up to guys and just pressing circle. I do apologize for not realizing that. Do you see the way he grabbed after? I didn't press that, and I never press it. It just does it sometimes. But definitely, did you see what I did to that enemy? He was on the other side of me, and you always want to put an enemy in between you and a wall to deal the most damage. I mean, sorry, not the most damage, but the safest way to do damage. And it looks like we've just got one guy left. They also do a little shuffle with their shields. They charge at you. It's very ridiculous. So be very careful if you're close to them. They'll do that move, and you'll feel that it was ridiculous probably as well. I haven't gone into this because I haven't been talking about the meta things that go on in this game. But this game actually does feature checkpoint overriding, and in a very limited way. Do you remember when we were heading down that lift where there were a couple of shackles that we had to destroy so that we could go down the lift, and we fought several of those fire guards, and then we fought the Hyperion guard? It was the same lift on which we fought a whole bunch of those harplings. Well, you can actually remember what I did. I destroyed one of the buckles, and then I destroyed all but one hit of the other buckles, and then I went back to the checkpoint, and then it occurred to me, well, I could go back to the save point, or I could go I can go to the save point just in case something happens, and then I could also go back to the checkpoint down near the lift. Or you can just go near the checkpoint, or to the checkpoint near the lift, wherever you know that the checkpoint is. And you can do that, so you can manipulate this game in ways that are definitely going to be towards your advantage. But yeah, checkpoint overriding, it's something that you're not actually doing anything but just revisiting a save point. And I'll be showing you that coming up on a battle that's after this one. These harpies can be so problematic sometimes, but there should be 4 of them, and then it's just this guy. So they give you this huge area down here, and then they put him. Now when we get to the Temple of Persephone, there's going to be a room that's like a third this size, and they put 2 of these guys. I don't understand it. I think it's the people who put the enemies in the game later after all of the levels had been made, because 2 of those large enemies don't belong in one tiny room. It's just ridiculous. But you know what else is kind of ridiculous? I looked up this data because I was realizing over here that 15 super pumps weren't killing this fat, ugly, tall, shit-filled fuck. So I realized that something was off, and then of course it occurred to me that this is not the same Cyclops we've been fighting before, technically, because he has armor at first. And then I looked online, and then I saw that he has about 30% more damage to his name. So that means that we've got to do 30 super plumes on him. 30. And you can count them too. You can count all of them too. I think I do nothing but super plumes. So it's a really boring encounter. So that's potentially 60 super plumes that we need to do in the Temple of Persephone when we've got 2 of those guys in this room. And I think there's harpies in it too right before. Okay, so something funny? I was reading a comment on a Taz 1 video that Big V had written like 6 or 7 years ago, and I think he was talking about one of the chests on a Cyclops fight, and I think he was talking about this chest over here. There's a red chest in the bottom right corner. If you open it, you can stand on the chest in this game, and you can spirit whore this guy to death if you want to. And I just thought that was kind of funny because you have all the room in the world to deal with this guy. Why would you want to confine yourself over there? You must be pretty new if you had to do that. Or we're doing something kind of funny, But good old Big V. A lot of the techniques that I learned in this game, I'm not going to lie and say that, I discovered them, I patented them or anything like that. But A lot of the techniques I did learn from Taz11 on his videos. He's since retired from gaming, what he told me last, so he doesn't publish any more videos, but I always receive courteous responses from him on his videos. So it's not like a Shinobi situation where you'll never get a comment because he's just vanished. He's no one anymore. But I'm not saying he's no one, and then that means he's not a real person or anything like that. He's just some image in one's mind, and that's okay with me. What's not okay with me is this jump over here. This jump is fucked. They fucked it up. This one over here, you'll see an edit. I always die on it the first time. I don't know what you have to do, but it's not made right. Now we're going through this door, and there's a huge battle in here. It's optional. If you want to partake in it, it's right over here to the left. This one over here, and then afterwards, head to the right. Look at the way Kratos turns his head like that. That gives you a lot of information that I never even comprehended when I first was playing these games. I mean, that is damn good to know that he's turning his head to those enemies that you can't see. It's the best, best you could hope for in a game that you can't control the camera. Do I want to be able to control the camera? I think these games work fine without it. Ascension marked the death of the series, in my opinion. Why? They had no grasp of what should have gone on in the game like that. But it's kind of funny that this part. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to talk about this part. So when you get up here, you want to do as many hits to this guy as possible. The super plume will give you 9 hits. Some of the hits count as 2. And then this works like clockwork down here. You want to combat roll to down here. He will approach you and do his sword. You want to iframe through it using the roll. And then after the roll, be prepared to do another roll because he's going to do the chomp. And then you just want to loop him into the a never-ending a bait fest into him doing his chomp at you. And you could do several things if you like. Light, heavy, light, or you can start with heavy. Starting with heavy down here does work a little bit better for some reason. I was watching Taz1's video, and he was doing heavy, light, just heavy. I think it was more than just heavy. It was heavy, light, I think. But one of the problems you'll get into on this guy potentially is this QuickTime event over here. It's difficult. The first one is just difficult to get to. Actually, I mean, it's probably not going to be a problem for you. But after this, keep your guard up. And the reason we were down there, by the way, is because they spawn archers during this fight. And if you're down there, these enemies are off screen and they don't attack. You can isolate every one of these enemies. I'll show you over here. If you come down here, you'll overwrite your checkpoint so that you can spawn down here if you like, which allows you to open the chest without him hitting you and interrupting you. Then you can stand on this and throw I was going to say the icicles back at him, but his arrows back at him. And you only have to deal with this one of the 4 at a given time. Now you'll see a replacement spawn in for him after you kill him. But this is actually pretty good because where you stand depends on how many archers are firing at you at once. So if you want 4 of them firing at you at once, stay where you were and just go up. But if you want to stand down here, this is just for fun and games. I just wanted to show you that you can have him alone if you want to. And then when you come back up here, staying over here to the right will just allow this enemy to be firing at you at once. You have a checkpoint now, so you don't need to worry too much. This crank handle that we're nearest, I'm going to jump on it in a minute and show you that we can isolate this guy. Single him out, so to speak. This crank handle will turn the chain that, or will pull up the chain that we need to use it for a bridge. The crank handle over to the left, I think it will give you a an item box or a red chest. Probably an item box if I had to guess. Now when you kill him with 3, he'll get a replacement spawned where he was. And then after him, just move over to the left and take out the last one. And of course, this is pretty tedious, but we are not using magic on this run too. And I thought that I would not be using the power glove either, the gauntlet. But Charon is a boss that I hate. I don't like him. I think that he's cheap, and it just takes way too long to do this fight. So I am going to be using the power glove, and I really don't care, honestly, because I never had it in this walkthrough that one of the principles was going to be that I don't use. I mean, is it really a principle? I guess it doesn't matter, but one of the restrictions would be that I don't use the Gauntlet of Zeus. But Charon and Persephone, they have too much life, so it's ridiculous. And I know it's because I haven't upgraded, but still they have too much life, in my opinion. And Charon is just like the worst. He has the worst attack. It's the most difficult attack to evade. Because one little slip up with Charon and you have to restart. Even if you're not doing no damage. So I guess it doesn't matter that much what exactly you're doing no damage or not, but the thing about it is how long are you gonna wait until you get to the second phase? How many times do you want to redo phase 1 and just have it take forever with the Blades of Chaos, because they're not as strong as the Gauntlet of Zeus, which could just kill them a little bit faster. But it's up to you, and I hope you don't mind too much that I am using the Gauntlet, but I'll probably be using it on Persephone too. I just don't like boss fights, and I don't in particularly like these 2 boss fights either. Persephone is not as bad as Charon. I just hate Charon in the worst way I could possibly. I just hate it. I hate the fight, and I hate him. It makes me hate this game and not want to play the game. Jesus, it just it just occurred to me that I think I've been saying the word fuck in almost every other word, so I do apologize about that. I'm sorry. It's been my bad lately, but I think I've slipped into the easy, mean tendency of just being average and vulgar, and I do apologize about that. Nothing is going on, to make me say those words that I'm mad or in a bad mood or I'm pissed off at this game. Not really. I don't enjoy the Charon boss fight, and I don't really like Persephone too much. Although I do like her phase 1. I think that's a good phase. I like it for what it is. And it's just not as bad as Charon. And you know what the problem is with Charon? It's just his Charon's Wrath move. But it's very strange though, because do you know the Banshee's attack? It's really strange because the Banshee's attack, it promotes that you press L1 and R1 and you tap them fervently, but if you do that, you cannot avoid damage. It's impossible to avoid damage. So it's very strange that they would ask you to do QuickTime events that are just going to result in you getting hit. I don't understand it. So it's what is that all about necessarily? because you don't want to do the quick time events. This game is about quick time events, but you don't want to do those. You want to roll. And what the Charon fight is, well, this is a great example of a game that does not use the ring out principle throughout the entire game, and then it does over here, and it shows you how fun ringing out enemies can be. Because if you grab these enemies, not the harplings, but if you grab them and toss them around, they will fall off the platform. So, as others have mentioned, this part definitely promotes it, whereas the other game, throughout the other part of the game, up to now, it's been, no ring outs, no nothing, no collision, no real nothing except just stacking damage on damage as much as you possibly can. But Charon Phase 2 is, every time he does that move where he does his Charon's Wrath, it's essentially that L1 and R1 QuickTime event spam fest with the Banshees. So it's just come to my light playing it that all his attack is just trying to get the right rhythm of rolling during it so that you don't take damage. And I really don't know anymore if rolling forward gives you more iframes, because the other rolls seem to do it pretty good and I get decent iframes on them. But just the timing of it and no damaging the stress of it. I'm looking to play Queers 5 pretty soon. They dropped the of in Gears of War. I saw this article where the creator of it, what's his name, Todd something Ferguson, the one that ruined the franchise because Cliffy B left. It's no wonder that the franchise left. The guy left. Franchise went to seed. But yeah. Do you think that modernization is defined by dropping one word? So Gears of War 5, it's no longer of, it's just Gears 5, and they've modernized it. So you're saying that removing the word of modernizes the franchise? I don't understand the logic of that. You just remove one word and you're modernizing it? I don't understand. I really don't understand it. How does removing a word modernize the franchise? Stupid is as stupid does, right? Fucking idiots over there. I never dreamed this Queers 5 shit, man. Oh, Jesus Christ. Queers 5, and I said I wouldn't be swearing anymore either. For fuck's sake. Here's a carbon copy of a fight we did earlier. I'm pretty certain of this. There should be 8 of these little shits and two guys with waffle cone shields. Now you can use the power glove on them if you like. I should have thought of that, but it's not necessary. And then we have to decide if we're going to use the power glove on Charon. I was just thinking, why did I ever start to call it the power glove? Did somebody else call it that? There probably was a trophies that said power glove or something. I don't know. I thought that was a pretty good parry on my end. But we are now coming full tilt. Full tilt, yeah, we're coming full tilt. So what can you expect on Charon? I actually haven't done him yet. We can expect well, this is a no damage run, so you are going to see a no damage fight. I am going to be using the Gauntlet of Zeus on him, and I have to just live with that. I really don't. I don't mind, honestly. I never espoused that I was going to use blades only. This is not that run. No magic. I mean, there's no need to use magic. I think on this entire run, because all we're going to do is just deflect fireballs back on him and on the final boss. Now you might wonder, why am I not pressing the circle button? Well, it's because you can get hit during the quick time event. So I'm going to do this. Look at this. How do you like that? I rang myself out. Somehow. I got behind the wall. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to combat roll our way down this walkway and bust open the gate. If you ring the bell, Charon won't answer. But that is the end of installment the 5th. I will see you on at the 6th one. Please take care.